Oh,
Yeah, that's
That's
fine.
a good way to start.
Already did
Just
it.
share the link.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay, we're live on. We are live on YouTube right now. We'll go ahead and let's see. I'll go ahead and share the link. This is a first. If I can find it. Boom.
Dustin, do you have
So what?
Oh no.
Is the lag kicking in already? Oh no, Phil. Oh no. You lagged hard, Phil.
Did I?
No,
did.
well, I keep seeing
Oh,
Phil.
oh,
and
I'm Phil's figs. Give him
Yeah.
just the Phil. I'll be the figs.
oh my
Figs.
goodness. Okay, we'll say fix. All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Here we go. All right, everybody. So, hello, this is Texas Garden Guy. It is Thursday evening, and we are going live with the garden party. Me. This is the garden party, and we want a garden party with you. We talk about the plants we grow and some things you might not know. The garden party on YouTube. Phil, Phil's Figs, go and introduce yourself real quick, dude.
What up, everyone? It's your favorite co-host back on the garden party. Your favorite fig parent, plant parent, and regular parent, Phil's figs.
Excellent. I rearranged my office, so now I got to run around to put my guitar up. Let me put a mount like right here. There's a closet door. We got a returning guest this week, Miss Jessica McCullum from Dream to Seed. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Let everybody know where you're from and what you got going on.
Hello, everyone. I am Jessica from Dream to Seed. I am in Gardening Zone 7A, and I am a master gardener.
Nice. Absolutely. And Mr. Phil Earth Nails and Tails. Go ahead and introduce yourself, dude.
Hey, yeah. Thanks for having me on. I'm really excited. This is the first podcast that I've ever been on, so really excited about it. As you said, from Earth Nails and Tails, I'm gardening and homesteading here in Virginia, Zone 7B, on the border of 7B and 8A.
Nice. Well, the good thing about this being your first podcast is every other podcast you do after this is going to be way better. It's only going to go up. It's only going to go up. Oh my goodness.
We're a great foundation for podcasts.
Yeah. No, before we do anything, I want to ask Phil, Ian, and T, where'd you come up with that name? Because I've seen you around for a while, but where did you come up with the name Earth Nails and Tails?
Yeah, I kind of wanted something weird and something that people would remember, but it's the way that I work on my homestead. So Earth, Nails, and Tails. So Earth is the garden, the permaculture, all of that. The Nails is the DIY projects. I'm like really a builder at heart. I love to build things. And then the Tails is the animals that we have. So the chickens that we raise. So that's where Earth, Nails, and Tails comes about.
Every time I see it, I want to say Earth, Snails, and Tails for some.
I get that all the time. Even my cousins say that.
It's like Eric gardening. You see Epic Gardening, you think his name's Eric. It's the same thing. It is. Yes. No.
I think of it so you can see it. It looks like ENT. It's like at the university, your university professor.
Yeah.
I asked him when he first popped on. I was like, "Are you an ear, nose, and throat doctor?" And he was using the initials and so he looks like he could be a doctor. I mean, yeah. Well, Miss Jessica, we happy to have you back on. You've been looks like you've been pretty busy. It's starting to become spring in your area, huh?
Yeah, and I'm actually behind a little bit. I usually try to get my spring stuff planted 1st of April if weather permits, but weather here in the spring is so unpredictable. So I just got most of the stuff planted this past week. I still have some potatoes to plant, but it's okay. It just means my summer stuff will get pushed back. It's fine. We have a long summer season, so it's good.
Yeah, that's great. I feel like with you, the northern growers, you get a little more of a reprieve in your summer, growing a lot of stuff that usually gets scorched for me here in Wilmington, North Carolina, by end of June. And it's like, nope, not happening.
No, it's so funny watching people like plant like kale and spinach and lettuce and stuff right now. I'm like, dude, I have to grow that like in November, December, January. Like it's a winter crop for me. It's unless you're doing like baby greens like that, but it's always funny seeing like different zones are so different. I mean, it's so cool to see people growing different stuff.
And if you move somewhere, like I grew up in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, in Amish country, and so like I was used to doing that growing season, and then I came down here, and I just planted it all when I first started gardening down here, and it was like I lasted 2 weeks. Everything bolted, everything got annihilated, and I was like, I am a terrible gardener. But you just got to adjust, I guess.
No, for sure. Well, and the reason we like to do this garden party with so many different people is we get people from different backgrounds, different areas, and y'all are kind of, I guess is Virginia Northeast? Is that, because I'm just south. So like, is it like, are y'all central or y'all like, what is that?
We're like, Virginia's like the mid-Atlantic. So
okay.
I used to live in New Jersey. So very similar to like Lancaster and like Pennsylvania. And coming down here, the summers can get pretty hot, and they're so humid. It's just sticky and humid.
The humidity's a whole new level. I mean, and then Destin talks about that in Houston, where he's like, "Okay, yours is hot. Go sit in your car and close the doors." And I was like, "Nope, pass. I believe you." But it's like, did you get upgraded in Virginia? Is that why you're on that 8A border?
Yeah, we did. I was like technically always on 8A, but I've been watching my temperatures for like 4 years, and I would always say that we were in zone 7, even though it said we were in 8. Now technically we're 8B, but I still think we're like a 7B realistically, what I've seen so far. So
got it. I actually had the opposite,
moving a little bit to the right. Actually, like we're growing longer into November, but our season is starting a little bit later. So I don't know.
Oh, I find that interesting.
I find
right, exactly. But sometimes we have to deal with those random dips in the jet stream that cause those Arctic airs to come down, especially here on the East Coast. I wonder if that happens in Indiana too, even in your late spring, where you're like, we're here, and then we get like some sort of Arctic air coming down that says, no, you're not, and then everything that had bloomed on its own and broke bud.
Honestly, it's really hard to grow certain things here because the weather in spring, like summer, fall, winter is pretty predictable, but springs here are just completely. So our last frost date isn't actually for another 2 weeks. So because we can still get really late frost all the way into Mother's Day. And so we just I tried growing peach trees for years, and they just, because we get these like 2 or 3 false springs, and they would bloom out beautiful, but they're so sensitive to those frosts that it would just get them every time. So I just, it's really tricky that's why I say I grow a lot cool season stuff. I do a lot better in the fall because it's more predictable. Here, it could be, 80 in January and then like 40 in April. So it's just all up and down. But I would say, because we went from 6B to 7A. But honestly, I don't see a whole lot change because we still got temps. We usually have at least one spell every winter where we get down into the negatives and like negative teens. So it's not like common temp, but we do get swings that way. So for me, I don't think anything changed other than the number.
Yep.
Everybody, whoever's watching in the chat, feel free to drop your gardening questions down below.
Yep.
I like to get a broad spectrum of people so I can answer some different questions. Like I always get onion questions, and I don't know if y'all are onion growers. I'm not even an onion eater. I don't like onions. I learned a long time ago, if I don't eat it, I'm so confined by my space, then it's no point in growing it. I'm not just going to grow it so I can give it away to everybody. That's what figs are for.
I feel like I've seen Jessica do an awesome video.
That is my favorite thing to grow.
Yeah.
Yes.
For sure. Yes. I just planted probably 100 of them.
Is it a certain variety?
I've got like 6 different varieties I'm growing. I try to do new things every year. I have a couple ones that are like my go-tos, but I have like a main onion bed, and then I plant them just all around the garden, just as ways to kind of, they help, I think, a little bit with pest control. It's nothing like major, but I think they do help a little.
Yeah.
For sure.
That was my main goal, just throwing my green onions everywhere, was to try to do something about the pest control, just because when the switch turns on when they all wake up, it's pretty rough here.
Yeah.
What do you struggle with the most? In regards to pests, what do you struggle with the most?
Oh, for me here in North Carolina, I get everything that, like, a lot of the those caterpillars that come in, they get my kale really good.
Yeah.
And then that's what I give up on kale with the pest more than the heat, and I'll just chop the stalks off, and then they come back in the fall, and then I can have kale again. But it's not even worth. They can just take it down like crazy.
Have you tried using like a row cover, like a bug netting?
I have not.
It's night and day. If you want to be like, because I have the same thing here. Like, if I grew my first successful cauliflower and cabbage when I used a row cover, and it also kind of extends like your cool season too, because it gives like 25 or whatever % shade, so they can grow a little bit longer without bolting.
Oh, that's smart.
Oh, that is brilliant. All right, it's done. Yeah. I'm buying that tonight.
And if you can't do the row covers, which that's my go-to as well, for sure. But if you can't for some reason, then BT spray for sure.
BT.
Yeah. That's one of the few sprays that I will use.
Yeah, so. Bacillus. I just did a video for Bonide, trying to pronounce Bacillus thuringiensis. It's one of those. It's called we call it BT. Just call it. But yeah, that stuff is. So I don't know if I have different pests. Like for some reason, I find different pest pressures every single year. It just has to do with the temperature and all that stuff. Last year was the cucumber beetle. It was the cucumber beetle, and when they say cucumber beetle, it doesn't mean it just goes for cucumbers. They'll go for figs. I've seen them go eat figs. It's wild, man. And the only thing I've seen like kind of help with that is the like I've used a pyganic and a pyrethrin spray, but it's the only thing I've seen that's actually penetrated the exoskeleton, because I've tried a bunch of different things. That's really been the only thing I've seen have any effect with those beetles.
I'm trying to think. Yeah, so I usually say like spinosad for like hard-shelled things and like pyrethrin for soft, I think is how that goes. But I steer clear of those in the summer because they're just they're so bad for pollinators. So you just have to be really like intentional when you use them, like to make sure that they're
for sure. Well, and I'll mix them with my neem oil, like maybe once. I do my neem oil sprays like super late in the evening, like if the sun is going down at 7:30, I'm spraying my neem oil like 7:25. And I really don't have any issues with the pollinators. My neighbor's got a whole hive of bees in the side of his house. I spray neem oil almost once a week in my house, and I never had an issue with the bees or anything. It's so wild. Yeah. But I think it's really just application like late in the evening.
I'm trying, because cucumber beetles, I usually don't have issues with those, and I did last year for the first time, and I ended up getting bacterial wilt on almost all my cucumbers from it. I mean, I have the pests that I know are going to show up every year, the Japanese beetles and things, but they're I know how to take care of those, aphids, things like that. But it's the cucumber beetles that spread the disease, and it's squash vine borer that is just squash vine borer is like my nemesis. I'm going to try and experiment this year planting actually cucumbers and zucchini late. I think we talked about this last time, like later in the year after they kind of emerged, and see, because I think squash vine borer is like one of the hardest ones to control, because you have to catch it before it gets inside the plant. After that, I mean, you can control it, but it's really hard. But those plants also need to be pollinated. So I think that's the hardest one.
Do you do a lot of squash, Phil?
Yeah, I do a lot of squash. I like loofah too. Loofah's a good one.
Yeah.
But yeah,
do you eat it?
A lot of squash and zucchini. Yeah, it's actually really good.
Is it? What does it taste like? Is it like
hard?
Is it like melony or cucumbery? Like what is it?
I would say it's more nutty than anything.
Really?
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
I just don't have the space for it. I know it gets crazy.
It gets huge. It does get huge. I would do like, if you do a cattle panel.
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to ask cattle panel.
Like, yeah. And I have had vines get 30, 40 feet long easily.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I work with Vico, and they have a raised bed, like display garden. And they had like a whole like row of just loofah, and it's crazy. But like, what it was really cool for is the pollinators loved it. Like those bumblebees were going insane for it. It was covered in bumblebees, and you can get right up to them. People freak out about bees, but if they're busy, they don't care what you're doing. Like as long as you're not messing with them, they don't care. They're just doing their job.
Yeah, and the flowers too are amazing. They're just those huge yellow flowers.
Yes,
it definitely helps to bring in the pollinators, and they're resistant to squash bugs and squash vine borer, which is a great reason to grow.
I did not know that.
That is awesome. That's really cool.
Ever had problems with them.
Oh wow.
And I've heard Rampicante squash is also another good one that could be resistant.
Yeah, the acorn squash, like a lot of the acorn and butternuts are really. Yeah, I've heard a lot of the acorn squash and like the butternut squash, the more winter squash varieties are more resistant. I mean, I don't think anything's squash vine borer proof, but like
anything that has that like a tougher neck to it, so they can't like get through the stem, like a tougher, like more like a like a tougher stem. But it's the zucchini and the pumpkins, they just take them out.
Yeah.
But one thing I saw recently was actually someone kind of near me, Paw Ridge. I don't know if you guys have seen him.
I love him.
Yeah, he's like right around the corner from me, actually.
Oh, really?
And yeah, he has had great success trellising his zucchini and like growing them vertically because it hardens the stem.
Saved that video.
And
I know
exactly do it. I'm gonna do it this year too.
I know. So, yeah, that's such a good idea.
Yeah. And I've heard also like putting foil around the stems.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't have time for that, but
yeah, that's a lot of time. I mean, I've got enough. I have a hard enough time going around with my organza bags, protecting like my tomatoes and figs.
Oh, my figs! When I do figs with organza bags, I'm like, I'm a nut out there.
They sell big ones now. They sell like really big ones, so you can do like a whole thing of like cherry tomatoes. Put the whole thing in there and do that. Like I bought like a 50-pack of 8x12-inch organza bags. I didn't know they made them that big, so like I'm able to cover a whole thing of like cherry tomatoes.
That's good to know, to like get the branch a little bit, even with figs, because I see the squirrels still messing with my organza bags on my figs, and they're like smushing it through the organza bag because they're relentless. But maybe it's just my squirrels, but
no, you definitely need to do a collab with Paw Ridge. I want to see that video.
Yeah, we're working.
That'd be cool.
He is the funniest. Like it reminds me of like the old dudes in town, like we used to hang out, like it would teach you stuff, around my hometown and stuff.
That's what I want.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we need more people. I always tell people, like I love going through. I'm not a master gardener. I don't have time for the classes. It's like, but I get to go do talks at the master gardener class and talk to them. And these elderly people have so much knowledge and so much experience.
That's the best part about being
it's so much fun.
Yeah.
All the older people.
Oh my god.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
That's like on my hobby greenhouse club of Wilmington. We meet at Arboretum every second Tuesday of the month, and it's like I'm the young person. I'm 37. I'm the young person there.
And we're not
like 20 years.
Yeah. Oh, we're not throwing any shade to Papa Ridge or like that. Like it.
No.
We're not calling him old. I don't know.
We're just calling it what you're
old.
Yeah. He could be 40 or 70. I have no idea. I have no idea how old he is. But no, his videos are super fun to watch. He's really cool. He does a lot of those what they call fruit sugars, where he has like a machine where like it grinds up like the fruit, makes it a liquid, and then he dehydrates it, and it's like a fruit sugar powder. It's I have to look the video up. It's very weird, but it looks
What
cool.
does he do with the powder? Or does he just do it for bricks count kind of thing?
I don't know. He might add it to like hot water and make like a tea or something. I don't know. It's weird, but it's very interesting. I don't know. I'll send you a link later though, but it's very cool. I'm not doing like how he does, where he's got a pole, but I am gonna grow all my stuff on cattle panels this year. Like my patty pan squash, they have tendrils, so they'll climb on their own. Stuff like my yellow neck and stuff, I'll just weave in and out because it doesn't have the squash. But go ahead, Phil.
I have a new plant that I want to ping off you guys that I got. The Arboretum had their plant sale. It's called Malabar spinach. Have you guys ever grown it?
Be careful.
Okay.
I've never.
I don't know.
Heard of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But my wife really wants to grow it because we.
Isn't that the super heat tolerant one?
It's supposed to be really heat, but it grows like a vine.
Yes.
And it's already growing. And I hope it's not little shop of horrors where I have to feed it blood or something. But like,
just spreads.
Okay, it spreads. Okay, cool.
I bought some last year, and I bought it when it was like hot. Like I got it from my buddy's Jorge's nursery when it was like already kind of late in the spring, and it kind of looked bad. I planted it near my bougainvillea trellis, and it kind of just died back. And I didn't think anything of it. Like a month later, it starts coming back like wildfire, like from every single spot I can see.
From a single stem, like vine, or does it like spread like a rhizome? Okay.
Yeah, and then the little purple flowers are really cute. It tastes like spinach. You know, it tastes like spinach. A little like kind of okra-y. I don't know how to describe it, like a little slimier. But it's good stuff. You know, it tastes good. I think it tastes good, but it will drop seeds and spread. So just be careful.
Okay, good to know.
But
good to know.
Climbs like crazy though. Like Jumanji, like that's like the inspiration for Jumanji. It's just
got it. Another thing to manage, but as long as it tastes good, because I saw it, like they were talking about, oh, it's heat tolerant, like it can handle stuff. And I literally put it next to my spinach. So when its spinach is done, then I'm gonna let this thing keep going for like the interplanting aspect of things. But I had no clue. You know, you go and you see something you've never seen before, and you're like, obviously I'm gonna buy this and grow it and see what happens. So that was my funky plant to grow this year.
Yeah. Well, and maybe y'all all probably have a new plant you're growing this year. I would say, like, if people are looking for like heat tolerant, like leafy greens, kind of, I grew this a couple of years ago, and I might do it again this year. It's called Molokia. It is. It's in the okra family. It's in the hibiscus family, and it's used in like Egyptian dishes. But it grows like a stalk, like okra, and it makes these little leaves, and you can eat them like make a salad, a stir fry, or they also make like little hibiscus flowers are like that big, and then they make like a little pod that gets like that, and people pickle the pods. But like if you get one plant, you have seeds forever because the little pod pops open and it drops like 1 million seeds. But it's really cool.
That's really cool.
Yeah, but Phil E N and T? Anything new you're growing this spring?
Actually, not really. I'm not really growing anything this year. I'm trying to, become more efficient and just like figure the things out that I'm really good at and just hit those well.
You also just had a baby too.
Crazy. Yeah.
Congratulations, man.
Congrats.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Yeah, she's a month old now. Went fast.
Wow. Oh, it does. And then it's just like, and one day she's going to smile back all these sleepless nights you're having. I had one of my professors in grad school was like, you'll be surprised how much you can do off of such limited sleep. And I was like, thanks. And yeah, you're just in the thick of it.
I have to agree. Sleeping is overrated. I feel like I get more. I don't know. I don't sleep that much.
Sleeping's not overrated. Yeah. No.
I wish I could do more on less sleep, but
yes.
I love sleep.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, congrats. I don't miss that.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Not at all.
Now, there's usually like two different kinds of gardeners. People who just grow exactly like what they know they like every single year. And that's great. That's great. If you know you can grow okra and grow whatever this varieties, perfect. There's some people who like, I'm buying like 100 new seeds every single year.
Yeah.
I'm kind of in the middle. I'll do like the things I know I do really well and things that I like, and I'll throw like one experimental variety in,
Exactly. Just to like test my boundaries, like my learning and things what I'm capable of. But the downside of being a gardener is you go to get some plants and you always get too many, right? You're like, I didn't mean for this, but then all your neighbors have plants then, right? But
absolutely. Yeah. What about you, Jessica? Anything new this spring?
Yeah, let's see, two. Well, I mean, I have new varieties of things I never tried, but two like new plants. So I'm doing goji berries for the first time this year.
Yeah.
I have 3 of those. I think I'm going to do them in containers for right now, but they are hardy to my zone. So I think I could plant them. I've heard they kind of take off though.
Yeah.
And I am growing eggplant. I've never
grown
already.
Eggplant
before.
Really?
Well, because I don't like it. So I know. So I literally beets and eggplants are the 2 things that I never grow because I don't care for them. But I feel like when you're making educational videos, like you need to know how to grow things. And so, I mean, I figure it's not going to be, it's a nightshade. So, I mean, it's going to be probably similar, but
my Italianness is going to come out here, but we make these Sicilian eggplant sandwiches that with pesto that are like lights out. And
it's just miracle. It's just Wonder Bread with the eggplant in the middle.
It is 100% not that.
Fried eggplant.
Fried eggplant. But yeah, but you fry it with pesto on both sides. And if you don't want to make your own pesto, hack Costco makes some of it this is from an Italian. that Kirkland pesto is bomb. And
Oh yeah, I get that. Yeah.
yeah, right. And fry it with that, and then if you like tomato and some balsamic with that, and then make that your sandwich with some nice crusty bread. That's like I hope it changes your mind when
I think it's just because I've never had it prepared well.
All right, nice.
But you got some mozzarella on it.
I know,
You can put some mozzarella in there.
Yeah.
Sorry, Phil. What did you say?
No, I said I think I'm gonna make a video on that this year.
You should.
Heck yeah, dude.
Well,
awesome.
So for in our area, we grow eggplant like in the middle of summer, like because it loves the heat, like just like our okra. So do y'all grow eggplant like in the spring, or when do y'all grow it?
No, I mean I've started it indoors. I mean it's still indoors. It would definitely be summer. I could probably grow it into fall because we have really warm falls. But you know, I picked. They're not like typical varieties though. It's a white eggplant, and then there's another one that's
the Japanese variety, I believe, the Ichiban or something.
No, it's called snowy eggplant, and the other one is it's a Spanish name that I'm gonna butcher because I'm not good at Spanish, but it's like Listada de Gandia. I think it's something.
That was a good Castilian accent there.
That sounded good.
I do better with Mandarin, but but it's like I don't know. I'm like, oh, it'll look good on camera because it's purple and you know. But I think I've never had it prepared right. I think that's the key. We just didn't really eat it growing up. So
I grew up being super picky, and not wanting to eat or hardly anything. And I've noticed that by starting to grow my own veggies and stuff, it's really expanded. I'm more willing to try something if I grow it myself. Like I never really liked squash and zucchini, and I still don't like okra cooked, but I like it. I like okra raw right off the plant. I like to pick it when it's about that big, and then eat it. I'll even carry a little salt shaker out of my pocket, put a little salt in there, and eat that little nub. I love it like that. That's perfect. But like
literally my dad told me stories when I was a kid. He'd go out and eat. He'd bring salt with him into the garden with the tomatoes, and he'd be doing this. So you're like you're falling into that age group perfectly with that.
Yeah, I mean, people do it with the cucumbers and like that. They take put it on the cucumber and stuff. But, yeah, I mean, it's.
But you don't like throwing your okra in a pan and cooking it and get a little brown on the outside.
I've learned with a lot of my veggies, I typically like them raw and not as much cooked, which I guess that's a step in the right direction. Is the way I think about it. You know, it's going from not eating it at all to eating it right out of the garden. You know,
there you go.
Do it.
Always room to evolve as well. Phil ENNT Phil. I saw that you planted was it those tomatillos?
Yeah, tomatillos. You know what? That's something new that I'm growing this year.
I knew. Okay, yeah.
I haven't grown tomatillos before.
That's not a Virginia staple.
Well, not for me at least. But I was like, I want some good salsa. I'm gonna grow some tomatillos.
Heck yeah, salsa verde.
Yeah.
Are they purple or are they the regular ones?
They're the regular green ones, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I just covered them because we had potentially a late frost, so it was like the first thing I planted because they were getting so big. I was like, they need to go in the ground. They were growing so fast, way faster than my tomatoes. I was very surprised. So I had to get them in the ground, and I, of course, like the next day, it's like, oh, you might get a frost, 35 degrees low for the night. I was like,
no. As soon as you do it too, and then
it worked. Yeah,
no,
literally. Yeah, I was like, okay, now I'm done now. That was my last frost. I'm good.
There you go.
Don't make jinx. I'm gonna knock on some wood over here. We're gonna knock on some wood. No, I'm typically when I'm watching people's stories, I don't have the sound on, and I was like, oh, those are tomatoes, and those are like the straightest up and down tomatoes I've ever seen. I was like, oh, they're definitely tomatillos. They're definitely tomatillos.
Yeah, I haven't grown them. I've grown ground cherries. And they look very similar, so I'm hoping that they bush out the same way. Is that gonna happen?
No, they get tall.
No.
Yeah.
Well,
at least mine did. Yeah.
The ones
I
had
both. It's like both. It's like a cross between the tomato and a ground cherry.
So like a nice
they got
umbrella.
tall.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And there's something that'll grow in the middle of summer, just like your eggplants and stuff like that. It's a good. I've got some seeds. I might need to do it. I actually never used to pay attention to what's determinate versus what's indeterminate, and this year I actually paid attention, and so I made an entire bed of determinate variety tomatoes, so that after I get that crop, I can pull it up, and maybe I'll do some eggplants or some tomatillos in that bed. I'm trying.
You can stagger it between. So like I think millennial gardener was like talking about my giant bed that I have, and he's like, "Yeah, put the indeterminates in the back, and you can stagger them at least.
Yeah.
So you can do some sort of strategy with sunlight."
No, for sure. For sure. No,
that's a good idea though, to grow all your determinate tomatoes together and just harvest it all and then next.
Yeah, that was the plan. And my wife wants to use a weed fabric, like we have the heavy duty like weed fabric to do our beds, because of just not having to deal with weeds. I don't know. It doesn't matter how much cardboard or what I do. I can never get the weeds. It's down here. It's the nutsedge. It's just anytime you weed eat or mow, it doesn't matter. You're throwing the seeds, or they're getting tossed.
You're throwing the seeds.
It's just the nutsedge is so bad, and I know they make stuff to kill it, but I don't want to put that in my bed.
Yeah.
I just I don't know. Someone had
asked. It's the South, I think, like the weeds situation where I grew up, growing up in Pennsylvania, and then I came down here, and it was just like turning the dial to 11, and it's just because the growing season's that much longer.
And a lot more rain.
So, and a lot more rain. That's a great point.
Yeah. You should just get a magnifying glass and fry it.
Yeah. I kind of made it my, I try to spend like an hour a day in the garden. I don't have kids like y'all. So like my babies are out in the backyard. So I'll take my dog out, let him run around, and go spend about an hour out there. And I don't mind getting on my knees to pull weeds a little bit. I feel like I get my workout for the day a little bit. It feels good. Like,
yeah.
People like, it always cracks me up when people are like, "Oh, I can't fall asleep. I can't fall asleep." And I joke around with my wife. I was like, "Well, it's because you didn't work hard enough today. You didn't." And she hates that so much. But
I'm sure at night when she's tired, you tell her that. I'm sure she loves it.
Yeah. I don't say that to her, but
I thought you're gonna be like, "Oh, because you didn't pull enough weeds in the garden today."
Yeah, well, and
put you right to sleep.
every time I go pull weeds, I sleep really good that night. I always sleep really good.
Well, speaking of parent stuff, I had to, you're just herding cats trying to get my 3 kids in the bed at night, and like I the only time I had to garden last night was in the dark, and I had my like little iPhone on top of my big pot, and I was sitting there with my tomatoes. I'm like, what am I doing? But that's like, you appreciate it the next morning when you look out. You're like, oh, I'm glad I did this, and I'm glad I put everything relatively in the right spot I wanted to when you come out. But I mean, I would like gardening in the morning is also a nice thing where I just walk outside with my coffee and just like. I think the first 10 minutes I don't even garden. I just like assess my space, and I like look at everything while I'm drinking the coffee. You're like pointing things out. You're like, and then my wife's like, "Hey, you're almost done out there?" And I was like, "I haven't even started." Oh no! And I was like, "All right, put the coffee down and get at it." But it's fun if like as gardeners, we like get lost in our space a little bit, especially this time of year when all the progress is this big. It's like 2 inches tall of progress. You're like, it's happening. Like when your tomatoes finally take and they leaf out, you're like, oh, it worked. I didn't stress you too much.
And the time flies so fast.
Yeah.
Oh,
you're out there for 15 minutes and it's dark. Like it's just, yeah, I mean, it's insane.
That's a benefit for older kids now, because my boys are 15 and 12. And I'm like, why am I hauling this heavy stuff?
I was just saying, yeah, they're shoving you're like compost this year. Get outside right now.
Oh, my oldest one's, I'm like, arm workout he plays baseball, and I'm like, go sift my compost, and he'll come in.
Yeah.
But it honestly, last summer, my son was like, I want to get a part-time job, and I'm like, I'll pay you hourly to go like work in the garden, and it was like the best. And the best was when he was introduced to the world of organic fertilizer, and he does everything in flip-flops, and he spilled it a little bit, and it was like, oh, why didn't I have that recording? Because it just was like the funniest thing ever. It stunk for like a week.
Oh my god.
Oh, that stuff gets ripe. But
yeah, I know. But that's why I started gardening, was to get my kids to eat. I figured if they grew it, they'd eat fruits and vegetables. That's how I really got into it.
That's a great perspective.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. I found that, like, gardening like on a big, like I'm not really gardening on a big, I've got a lot going on, but I'm not like a big space, but just trying to be as efficient as possible. I actually got some Orbit. They're supposed to be wireless sprinkler timers. I have 2 zones in my yard where I can do, watering on their own. But they have to go off at separate times. And then the rest of the garden, I have to hand water. So if you can like do like a timer or a wireless thing, it just makes stuff much more efficient. I got a new position at work, so I can come home for lunch. And I even water my garden on my lunch break while my food's heating up. And it's been so nice. And eating lunch in the garden has been great almost every single. It's been so nice.
That's really great.
Oh my god, I gotta stop bragging about that. I know you.
You should brag about that. That's something to brag about.
It's so nice, man.
That's like a goal accomplished where people is like, yeah, you get to go home at lunch and garden, like while people are at their offices being like thinking about that. Yeah, that's a great point.
I have a great company. I got a great company. Go Sabre. Thank you.
Well, what stage are you guys at? Like Phil, you probably got everything in the ground, right? That you want to.
Pretty close. Yeah, I still have to put in all the rest of my tomatoes and peppers. I was waiting for this week, so I'll probably get those in like this weekend or early next week, and then I'm pretty much set for the spring and summer. So yeah, I'm excited.
That's great. And Jessica, you still have a few weeks left of.
I've got a lot. So my tomatoes, I actually just up potted tomatoes, so they're still teeny tiny, like just a couple inches tall. But I mean, I like to plant stuff young anyway. I don't like to plant stuff when it's really mature. But like I said, I still have to plant potatoes. That's happening this week. So I'm just behind. Like it's usually in the ground by now, but I mean, we can grow well through October before we start getting frost. So I'm not ever in a rush, honestly. So, and I feel like, I don't know if this happens with you guys too, but there seems to be like that, because it gets pretty hot here in the summer, not Texas hot, but pretty hot. Like that mid-July to like mid-August.
It's all relative.
Yeah, like the garden goes through that, like the tomatoes stop producing, like everything just kind of like is just in survival mode. So I'm never in a rush.
Well, that's where the eggplant comes in right there.
That's true.
The eggplants don't stop producing. Once it's hot, they love it. It's like okra. Eggplant produces like okra, and the heat, they love it.
Yeah. My spoon tomatoes produce the entire summer, but they're really fun to eat. They're really difficult to eat. You have to eat them with a spoon. You're not going to poke like they're that small.
Is it worth it?
I planted some of those this year. I do have.
Really?
Yeah, I've never.
They're the little cutest.
They're like
things you'll ever
big,
eat.
Right?
Yeah, they're the size of a goji berry. No, but you could fit like 4 or 5 in a spoon, and they just kept going. They're indeterminate, but they kind of grow dwarf as well, and they just kind of like shrub over and fall over and keep growing out unless you like train them upwards. But I had a blast with them. I think that's like I got 20 tomato plants in my compost that I'm debating trying to haul out of there and keep going with. I don't know if you guys are encountering that now in compost, but I think I'm worried they're all spoons because it's fun to have 1 or 2. I don't need like 30 spoon tomato plants.
It's usually like the sweet 100s that come up out of the cherry tomatoes. Can't kill them.
Just give them to your neighbors, and if they are spoons, then they'll just give you some more tomatoes.
There you go. Perfect.
Yeah. Or plant like a wall, like against your fence, and like the birds
reach over.
The birds and the squirrels eat those and leave your figs alone. Like
fuck, do that.
Like a fodder wall or something like that. Like just to go let them go nuts.
That's a good idea.
Well, it's I didn't realize this until I was watching one of your videos the other day, Phil ENNT, that you're also a fellow Phil's fig lover. You're a fig lover as well.
Yeah, I do like my figs.
I don't
have as many figs as you guys do, but yeah, I've got Chicago Hardy fig that I've been working to establish here for 3 years, and I finally got it like started shape that I want. I actually propagated it, gave cuttings to my buddies. So yeah, I'm in the fig game for real.
It's in the ground. It's in the ground, and yeah,
it's in the ground. Yeah,
that's awesome, and it's been coming back every year.
Yep. Yeah, I pruned it down to 4 main branches this year, and I've already got the shoots coming up. So I'm gonna try to figure out what I can do with it.
Do you cover it at all, or you just let it do its thing?
Yeah, I don't. So Italians typically cover their figs. They like wrap it all up with to dry it out and do all that. I did that for 2 years, and I lost figs for 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
Next year, I planted a new tree, didn't do it, and it's been fine ever since. So
yeah, I mean, those hardy Chicagos are known for their hardiness too. Like that's why they're called that. And like They are also, if they do have dieback, those ones will fruit for you, even if it goes through like some sort of rejuvenation growth year. You'll still get a lot of figs off of it. But yeah, I had to explain to my dad when I moved down here to Wilmington, like, Dad, we don't need to wrap it. Because, like, you know, in New Jersey, like the Italians, it's like a ceremonious thing where they're like, we have to wrap it. We got to put a bucket on its head. And
Hey,
I'm
Christina,
like,
get the tops. We gotta cover up the fig plants.
you say that, but those are conversations. But like,
everybody's Christina and Anthony and a lot of.
And so, but yeah, when you can have a tree in the ground and it starts, you know, you get those scaffolding branches going and you get those secondary branches, so you have that nice open interior. Like, it's so great because soon they have that 3-year system is what I call it. So you're sleep, creep, leap, right? And when they leap, they really do.
They do. Yeah.
Say that again. The sleep, creep, what?
Yeah, lots of trees, but like I say this with figs, the first year they sleep. So if you put them in the ground, generally, like, they need to get established their root system. The second year they creep. Now there's exceptions to that, but the exceptions kind of prove the rule. So you could have figs the second year as it wakes up and gets happier. But that third year, especially if you trained it and it gets happy, it can shoot up a ton of growth until it's a mature tree. So.
Okay, so I have a question because I'm fairly new to figs. So
you're getting them right.
So I have one. I have a brown turkey fig that fruited for the first time last year. I just got like 3. And then I just got 3 phenomenal figs. I think they're like smaller, like dwarf.
I think it's Better Home and Gardens. Better at their patent one, I think.
I'm not sure.
I think phenomenal reminds me a lot of like the Bordeaux figs, so the Negronis or the Violet de Bordeaux. So it's these small, kind of turbinate ones. Yeah, so it's great. They kind of grow in a dwarf manner too.
Yeah, so I wanted them I'm trying to do more container plants on my patio, so I wanted like some small fruiting plants. But figs are like borderline hardy for me. So I've heard like some people can grow them well, but then we get these winters that just are really bad and they don't survive. So I've just kept mine in containers because it was safer route. So what, like, is the care going to be different?
In a container, you just have the root ball exposed. So they're going to be more susceptible to if you leave them outside all the time. So you're going to want to throw them in like your unheated garage in the winter.
Oh, well, so yeah, I just pull them up. I've just pulled it up to my house because I have like it's kind of sheltered by the brick.
Yeah, that works.
So,
that works perfectly fine.
But I mean, like pruning wise, because I don't know that mine are going to get that big in containers as maybe they probably like.
They will.
Will they?
Yes,
they can. And you know, if you prune the root ball every other year as needed, and if you choose not to size up. But I have a 6-foot tree that's in like a 10-gallon pot out back.
Really?
Yeah.
God.
Okay.
And you can prune them nicely, and then you have cuttings you can try to propagate with, and then that's a rabbit hole. But yeah, go for it. They will grow for you a lot. My parents have 6-7-year-old trees in pots that up in Pennsylvania in 6B that they just keep inside. They come out, it wakes up, it puts on a bunch of growth, and every fall you just prune it back. I call them scaffolding branches, but you want to make like at least 3 to 5. I call it rule of 3s. So if you have a main trunk, 1, 2, 3, and each one of those 3 has 3, and it kind of makes this nice pattern as it grows upward, and it makes it manageable.
So mine fruited for the first time last year. So when should I start? It's not huge. It's probably, I don't know, maybe like 3 or 4 feet tall. If
you look at it, if you want to grow it as a bush, you're perfectly welcome to grow it as a bush too, and it'll shoot out a bunch of base stalks that can branch off of. But if you want to isolate one center branch and then 3 off of that center branch, you can kind of look towards that, and it'll put out new growth.
It doesn't even really have it's more like open.
It's a hand. It's a hand.
Yeah.
Leave it.
And you can totally grow it like that too. In fact, where you are, a hardy Chicago would be great. And a lot of people just cut it down to the ground every year because it fruits on the new growth. And you can cut it down, cover it in mulch, and then it'll come back up as a shrub every year. And you should get figs by September.
Comes back like wildfire. Usually.
Okay, so I wonder if I could do that in ground. See, I'm new to this world of figs.
But I mean, if you
all figs like fruiting on new growth, or
there's some have a Brava crop, which is last year's growth. And so you can get on every node, you have a potential to get the Brava crop. And there's 2 types. You have Unifere and Bifere. And that's the Italian words for it, I guess. But the Bifere could be
ounce of figs. Here we go.
Oh man, every episode we got to get some. And you have some figs that are very dependent on the Brava crop, like your Desert Kings. And they're San Pedro types, so they need capification for their main crop. But but you have lots of figs, and you can even get Bravas on your hardy Chicagos too, where if you keep them happy and keep those branches happy, they will put out, and that synconium will pop right out with the new leaf bud, because every node is a chance for a new branch as well as a fig.
Yeah. Yeah. I have probably 20 fig trees in my backyard, and all but one of them are in containers. I gradually up pot them. If I do them in 3 gallons, the next year they go into like a 15 gallon or a 10 gallon or whatever. I gradually up pot them to keep them happy. So if you're going to keep them in a container, they do fine. You can keep in the container until they can't be anymore, until you can't move it around anymore. But I've noticed in containers you have to water more often because gravity. You just it's flushing out quicker. I fertilize more often because you're watering. The more you water, the more nutrients you're flushing out. So I do like a weekly foliar spray. People ask me what kind of fertilizer does a fig need. Fig doesn't need any fertilizer. You can just leave it alone; it'll be fine. I've seen an increase in yield, like especially in the Brava crops, by doing a foliar spray like about once a week with a very low nitrogen fertilizer.
I would actually say that too. Like if you don't, I recommend a lot for people to add bone meal to get that phosphorus bump when they are not getting fruit.
Because people don't think figs flower, but actually the fruit is an inside out flower. I got to say it before you did, Phil. I said it before you said it.
I was just saying it with you. I was like,
I already said synconium. So I don't know.
No one knows what that means, Phil. Oh my goodness. No, last time we talked, I think we were talking about getting you some pomegranates, weren't we, Jessica?
Okay, so it's the plan. This has been the plan for like 3 years. We'll see if it happens finally this year, is to do a home orchard. But I think I said it takes me about a year to get the soil ready because I'm in that nice new neighborhood build with no topsoil. And I will say earlier when you were talking about weeds, like I don't get many. And it's because pretty much every house around me is spraying for weeds in their yards. So I don't get which is bad, but it's also, I don't deal with the weeds as much. So, but sorry, completely lost my train of thought.
Pomegranates.
Pomegranates, yes. Okay. Yeah, that's the plan. You told me, what was the name of the one you told me that was hardy? Probably
the Russian one, the Sala something.
Slovatsky.
That's what it is.
Slovatsky. There's
I got my first 2 of those, and I have 2 pomegranates on them. I plopped them in the ground and ignored them, and they survived 18 degrees, no problem.
They do not. Most of them are Russian and Chinese, like northern Chinese, like northern Russia. Okay. And so they actually need the cold weather to produce their fruit. Mine are blooming like crazy. The hummingbirds have been going nuts for them. The hummingbirds have been fighting over the pomegranate blooms. And I got a couple that look like they're going to make some fruit. I've got a Texas pink, and I got the Parfianca that I got from my dad. My dad is like me; he's a plant hoarder, except he's got 100 acres, so he's got a lot more. He's got a lot more room to play around. So he's got about 30 pomegranate plants and about 15 different varieties. Like yeah, that's where
you ever offload plants at his house, like just to keep them there, and he doesn't even know they're there.
That's so once my fig trees are too big for containers, they go to retirement at my dad's, and so I leave them out there. I label them.
You put them out to pasture,
and that's where I say, hey, Dad, you can have all the cuttings you want, or you can have all the figs you want. Just leave me the cuttings. I'll come out here and get the cuttings from them. I'll come prune them. So, problem is he's not getting identified.
It's worth it.
Yeah, I think so.
Are they self-pollinating, or do you need more than one?
So just, I think like anything else, they would produce without multiple ones, but it's always better to have 2, at least 2.
I was told the same thing. It's like they will, but if you add more for the pollination, you will benefit from it more.
Yeah, and the really good thing is they're easy to propagate. They're super easy to propagate.
Really?
Yes, they're really like a pencil thickness, like cutting. You can propagate them super. If you're the fig daddy, I'm the prop daddy because if it's in my backyard, I don't buy anything that's got a patent because I like to propagate stuff. I love. If I've got it, I've tried to propagate it.
Especially if you have a greenhouse and you're like, you've progressed out past the dining room table. You got the greenhouse. You're like, of course I'm going to try this.
So, well, my area here in Texas, it doesn't get that cold for that long. My greenhouse is mostly to keep my tropical stuff alive. Like I do most of my propagating like in the spring and like late fall. So I mean, yeah, it does hold off a little bit, but my greenhouse is mostly for my plant collection. That's my hoarding mentality.
So how big do those pomegranates get?
As big as you let them get.
Okay.
It will get huge, I'm sure.
Man, I got a pomegranate once like 2 years ago, and that plant died. And I was like, but I bought like a warranty because I got it online, and I swapped it out for an apple tree, and now that's growing good. So,
what kind of apple is it?
I got a Granny Smith and a Honeycrisp.
Oh, you got a Honeycrisp. Nice.
I love Honeycrisp.
See, I love it. We get that cedar apple rust so bad around here, and fire blight. So
we get fire blight too bad.
Yeah, it's really hard to grow fruit trees organically here.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to spray some kaolin clay, see if that works.
Yeah,
kaolin clay.
The plan is to do some like dwarf fruit trees, but I've heard that the kind of the Americana varieties, I think it's like Liberty and Freedom, they're supposed to be really disease resistant, so I might go with those.
I've heard really good things about Liberty.
Yeah.
I think I've heard that from James Prigioni, actually.
Okay.
He talks about Liberty a lot.
Yeah. So apple trees, maybe pomegranate. Yeah.
Is that Millennial?
No.
James Prigioni. No.
The Gardening Channel with James Prigioni.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I get him confused.
He's like the food forest god.
Oh, okay. I think I know what you're talking about now.
Yeah.
He and Millennial did have just had an interview together, I think.
Yeah, they did. It was fun.
Maybe that's where I saw it. No, for sure. No.
But apple trees. Oh yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry.
This is about us, not James.
Chill hours with apples. Do we have to be cognizant of those for apple varieties, like we would do like peaches and stuff?
100%.
Definitely. I think apples more so.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, no, down here in my part of Texas, I've got two apple varieties, the Anna and the Ensheimer, and they're like 200 chill hours, 250 chill hours. And you don't want to be too far north and have something like that because, you know, it might think it's spring, pop up, produce its blooms, and then just never gets an apple. You'll never get pollination rate. So like, it's very important if you're going to be like far north, you find something in your zone that's like at 1,000 hours or 800 hours or 600, whatever. But down here, it's like 200 to 300 chill hours mostly.
Yeah.
That's low.
I want to do cherry trees too. Cherries is on the list too. We'll see. The birds are, I don't know. I might have to net part of it if I do that, but I think it'd be fun to grow cherry trees.
Hey, yeah, have a section for the nature tax is over here, and save some for yourself, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the birds tall enough where you can't reach. That's for the birds, and everything else is for you.
Right, I know. Well, the plan was to do like dwarf or semi-dwarf varieties, but I guess if I'm doing a palm, I'm gonna go full out. So, yeah, it's the birds here. I really don't have issues with squirrels. It's birds and rabbits. So, yeah.
Dude, birds on figs is rough because they'll eat like 2% of it. They'll just Swiss cheese it. You're like, come on, really?
Well,
I'm gonna eat it anyway.
It sounds like Phil doesn't have a problem as much with the flying birds as he does with the ones that plop around on the ground. I saw they tore up your broccoli.
Yeah, my chickens. Oh my gosh, I was so upset. I literally was taking stories the day before. I'm like, yeah, like I did the BT. I've been covering them. Look how good they are. And then I come out the next day and they're just gone. I'm like, no.
Oh.
I was so upset, but we'll see.
I saw your stories.
Today too.
I saw your stories, and you were visibly upset in your stories. Like you were.
That was like a couple hours later.
Man.
That's really funny.
Yeah. It's like that, and that's why, because I have a part of my garden where it's completely fenced off. It's like my main vegetable garden, and then I've kind of been expanding and doing more of like a food forest, like permaculture type thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I do have some like in-ground beds there where I like to plant a bunch of different stuff. And it was that broccoli that was out in that open area where they could easily get to it. So,
the fact they did it like right at the very end when you were getting ready for it, that's like the worst part. Did you scold them? Did you go in there and just like let them have it?
I went in there and I said, you deserve that. Good job breaking out. But this ain't happening again.
You win this time. Remember.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
They're birds though. They're like dinosaurs. They don't test the fence the same spot twice. Raptor.
Yeah. They're figuring it out. Like we fixed the hole yesterday, and then they found somewhere else today. I don't know where it is. Can't find it.
Wow. How many chickens do you have?
We have 5 right now, but we also have 7 chicks that we're raising. So
Cool.
we'll have more very, very soon that are outside.
We had a few episodes ago. I learned about chicken math, and that's a thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Originally, I only wanted 5, and we wound up with 7. So there you go, chicken math.
Yeah.
Chicken math.
Well, do you have some older chickens though? You have some older hens.
Yeah, they're about 5 years old, so we wanted to phase in some newer ones.
So they're done laying eggs by then, right?
No.
They still lay, but
okay.
We have some pretty good good breeds. I almost call them varieties, but
what were the breeds? I still have my notes from a buff Orpington.
Buffs are good, but they can be a little bit broody.
Broody.
Very motherly. So they might just like hang out in the chicken coop a lot and
sit on eggs.
Just sit on eggs. But they're great for like hatching chicks. Like if you wanted more chicks and you have a broody buff, you stick those chicks under there and she'll be the happiest mama hen that you'll ever have. And
that's what my neighbors did. They got one that got broody and they were like, all right, 5 more chicks. Here we go. I was like, oh.
They'll love it. Yeah. But we have Rhode Island Reds, which are really good, as well as Barred Rocks. Barred Rocks are amazing.
A Plymouth Barred Rock, right? Is that got it?
Yep. Plymouth Rock, Barred Rock. And then we got a bunch of different types of like Easter eggers this year.
Oh, cool.
Americanas, and so they're all different colored eggs, which I'm excited for.
You got to make friends with your local feed store right after Easter. Like, hey, we got like 15 left over. Come pick them up.
Yeah. They're fun. I love the chickens. They're a lot of fun.
If they would just stay in there where they're supposed to be, it's gonna be like kids. Like kids never do exactly what they're supposed to do. It's gotta be very similar.
And they give you that good compost.
They do. That's another great reason to have them. I make probably 2 yards of my own compost every year from like the garden waste and like the chicken waste. So
wow.
Yeah.
Dang. That's awesome.
Y'all have chickens too, right, Jessica?
Can't have them.
Oh, you're in an HOA like me, probably, huh? Like a subdivision.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Can't. I've toyed with getting rabbits. I feel like I could probably get away with having rabbits, but we get enough rabbits in the yard, and the dog takes them out every time. So I don't want to. Yeah.
I mean, rabbits are like that. I don't raise rabbits, but at the Pennsylvania Farm Show, that was my like favorite exhibit outside of chickens before the avian bird flu. Was like the rabbit section is the coolest because there's like I had no idea that some of these rabbit varieties that are out there.
Yeah, so my cousin, she's on Instagram. I don't know if you've seen Eggs and Bunnies on Instagram.
Yes, I have actually. Yeah. Yes, I do follow her.
That's my first cousin. And so I go visit her farm, and she's got like a gazillion animals out there, and it's such a fun hobby farm. So if I need to get my animal fixed, then I go out there. So
that's your cousin. That's hilarious.
It is, yeah.
Oh my gosh, look at all these goats and pigs.
Yeah, that's hilarious. Shout out to Carrie.
Yeah.
No, that's funny. Oh my goodness, that's
now
awesome.
you get good compost from that place, I guess.
Right, I know. So we trade. I give her plants. I just gave her onions. So I'm like, give me some bunny poop.
That's
it's already pelletized.
Oh yeah.
Well,
compost goes right in the garden. It's foolproof.
It's so cool, like when you can build a community of like people in your area who garden or raise chickens, like. A lot of people you don't need to raise chickens because you have someone that does. They do chickens, and you do figs. So like you trade some fig jelly for some eggs, or a fig tree for some eggs, or some chicken, or whatever.
I mean, that's exactly the scenario that's happened, and we call it like our neighborhood's called Bayshore, but we call it our Bayshore CSA. And so all of a sudden, the bat signal goes out, and there's figs on someone's door, there's zucchinis on another, and we're already trading plants for what we seeded this year, which has been really fun. But it's a nice community aspect to have fellow gardeners.
Yeah, and I feel like Dustin, you might know this too. Like I've been able to like have some impact. I feel like now all my neighbors like they have little gardens, and so, and I've been doing like posts every once in a while on the community page, the Facebook page. And so I just did this big thing about Bradford pears, which we have like dozens of them in the neighborhood. And I'm just like, if I see one more Bradford pear go up. So I finally just like post about it. And 99% of the people were like, I had no idea. Oh my gosh. Like, can we take them down? And I'm like, yes, we can take them down. And there's like that 1%. They're like, I really like the blooms. They're so pretty. And
I was gonna say, let's get Vikram on the horn. Vikram,
Right.
Oh, Vikram would be great about
Vikram,
that.
our buddy,
go smell those blooms. Tell me how they smell.
He hates them.
But I feel like it's slowly like starting to get that way. So I'm holding out for chickens. Every time we have an HOA meeting, I'm like, tell my husband, I'm like, bring up chickens, and he's like, stop it.
I tried so hard. I tried during.
You could keep them enclosed as long as they're enclosed. Maybe like there's got to be some sort of strategy.
I think it's like the noise thing, which they're not even that loud. But I mean, I think it's a noise thing, but I'm holding out because the gardens are, I mean, they used to not even allow gardens, but now it's changing. I feel like people are starting to catch on. So I'm holding out for chickens. I feel like it's going to happen.
During the pandemic, I sent a letter to my HOA president and I said, hey, there's a food shortage. I was like, so why not make an addendum to our HOA to allow people to have up to 3 hens, no roosters, in our backyard just for laying purposes so we could have eggs. And I got shut down so quick because here's the problem. Like, I get it. Like, I mean, I would be responsible, but you're gonna have people out there that are not responsible. And I have their chickens in my raised bed, their chickens eating my tomatoes, and then I got to be eating fried chicken that next night. So like I have no remorse for other people's chickens. So yeah, give people an inch to take a mile sometimes, but it's also easier to ask for forgiveness and permission because, like, I'm not supposed to have a giant greenhouse in my backyard either, So I don't want to raise too much hell, and like I want to stay off the radar,
Yeah, I know. I feel like I'm pushing the limits of what I can actually do. But I feel like I keep it looking nice, so it's not like, but yeah, same thing. I get it.
That's the key. And I when I do my backyard gardening talks, I always say, hey, just have your garden looking nice. I was like, so on the off chance, they do like a routine inspection because most of the HOAs, you sign a little form, they can walk in your backyard and check anything at any point. Like, I've got those cable boxes in my backyard where you say, hey, we're going to go inspect the cable boxes, If it looks nice, they're less likely to bitch about it, And
also, like, have you guys, same with like the Bradford pear, Jessica, like, have you seen other neighbors start getting raised beds in their yard too and kind of doing what you're doing?
Yeah. So obviously, I mean, I've got like 15, but I would say pretty much all of my neighbors have at least one raised bed. And I've I give them plants and I'm like, oh, and they ask me for tips and I've given them like extras of stuff I have. So I feel like it's, in fact, I'm pretty sure one of them's on the board. And so I've tried to like get in good, but I feel like it's done a lot of like good. And my goal this year, aside from the Bradford pears, was to have, because there's so much grass in my neighborhood, which I'm not against, I like my yard. My kids use it, my dog uses it, but it doesn't all need to be grass. Right. So my goal this year is just to kind of educate people like, hey, you got a spot in your yard that you're not using. I guarantee we all do. Like, let's plant some natives. Let's plant a pollinator garden. Let's just make these small changes that kind of add up to a lot if everyone's doing it. So that's kind of the goal this year.
Really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, speaking of natives, we just had with the plant ecologist here in Wilmington, we had an event and she had some of her advisors from the environmental science program here come over and they brought I got 3 native persimmons that I'm going to be putting out back, which are pretty cool. And then a bald cypress, which is going in my.
Don't do it. Don't do it. I'm telling
all right.
you. Don't
I won't do it then.
Don't put the bald cypress. So my grandpa put a bald cypress tree in his backyard and like probably 30 feet from his house. The problem with bald cypresses is that they have knees.
The knees, yeah.
The knees. So if you go mow my grandpa's house, and I'm assuming the roots are already up under his house, but their roots do this. They want to come up for air. That's why if you look out in the swamps, like in Louisiana or the Everglades, you see these big spikes coming up out of the ground. Those are bald cypress knees.
So I have a big thicket in my backyard with a ditch swale that's all water based. So I was putting it out that ways away from the house. But maybe I won't. Maybe I won't plant it up.
I would put it far away from your house. Mowing over it sucks. Mowing over it is not much fun.
10-4.
And like how big the roots spread,
Yeah. And the what was the other one you said?
Oh, American persimmons.
How big do those get? How
They
big
get
is
big,
Persimmons get big. Yeah,
20,
maybe.
30 feet.
Yeah, maybe more. Yeah.
Because I just have this thicket full of like magnolias, and there's a few live oaks and some like we have the sable minor, the cabbage palmettos grow native here too. But yeah, the persimmons are native. They extend basically to the coast here because I'm about as the crow flies. Like I got a waterway in my backyard. I'm right near the ocean, but it's still kind of greeny and woodsy where I am. But the persimmons, I have seen them growing around town. So
Nice. That's cool.
yeah, we'll see. They are. Well, there are two types of persimmons. Why am I blanking on this?
There's like the what's it called? I know what you're thinking. It's like the
Non-astringent and non-astringent.
correct.
And these ones are astringent, so you got to wait until they look like they're rotting before you harvest them, and you squeeze out all the jelly persimmon on them. Versus like a fuyu or something that is non-astringent. That's like your coffee cake pie thing.
Have you had a persimmon before? You've eaten them before?
Yeah.
Yeah. They're okay.
I have.
Did you like it, Phil?
Don't go. Oh, sorry.
No,
I like it.
I haven't had one.
Oh, you have.
Don't go in thinking you're eating other types of fruit. You got to go in thinking.
So my grandpa had one right behind his house, and it got like 30, 40 feet tall. It was huge. And it put out a lot of fruit. It put out a lot of fruit that the possums would eat every single year, which brought the possums into my grandpa's like back porch every single night. And so, yeah, but I wasn't a fan of the fruit, but the possums really liked it.
Oh, well, because like the astringent ones, you really have to wait apparently, or else it sucks the moisture out of your mouth. You have to wait till they're like falling on the ground.
Yeah.
And then non-astringent ones. Yeah.
Definitely astringent. Yeah.
Is that what happened? You just like
ones. It did not taste good at all. It was like so gross. Yeah.
We had a great possum in our neighborhood.
Oh my god, dude! I reposted that possum video on Facebook, and I got so many mean comments. It was so bad. So I don't know if y'all seen my video, but I had a possum that was stealing my figs, which I didn't care. Like it could have as many figs as it want. The problem is my dog could hear it from the inside of my house that it was on the fence, and so my dog would go out and they'd get in fights. Like the possum would be riding my German Shepherd around like it was a bull.
No.
Dude, I've seen, dude, it's like, and it was happening like 2 or 3 times, happened like 2 or 3 nights in a row. And I was okay, I got to trap this possum and take him down the road because I don't want to kill him. I don't want to do any of that, you know. So I trapped it and I took it down the road to right next to a wildlife refuge and let it loose. But I got so many like mean comments saying that like, oh my god, it could have had babies. It's illegal in certain states to do this. I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh, they'd been happier if I just, you know.
I just went through that I posted about the house sparrows.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, I feel like I'm very like not as like harsh as many people are with house sparrows with the bluebird boxes. Like I'm not on it, but the Master Gardeners has a bluebird committee, and they just, you know, they straight trap and euthanize, which I'm not against because they're invasive and they're competing with the native birds. But I just, you know, there's so many people that were just like, they need homes too. And I'm like, but they're, you know, it's no different than like the kudzu forest is growing crazy down in the South, you know, like if you just let that stuff go, you know, it's not supposed to be here for a reason. And so I think it's just, the whole point of the video is if you're going to have bluebird boxes, you need to be responsible with them. You have to make sure that they're being used by native birds and deter the sparrows. But yeah, there's, you know, it was either like one extreme or another. It was like, you should have just trapped them, and, you know, or it was like, don't mess with them at all.
And this is the English sparrows, the little English, like
house sparrows. Yeah.
Oh, they're a menace. Like they're so cute, but they steal the material from the screens on my windows. They keep ripping up my screens. It's so bad.
Yeah.
Whoa.
So they compete with native nesting birds, and they're very, very, very aggressive.
Like they are.
I've had 2 tree swallows that I found in my yard this year from them, and so even if that box is actively being used by, say, a bluebird or tree swallow, they'll go in and kill the hatchlings, destroy the eggs, kill the mom, and then literally build a nest on top of it. And so, so they're, you know, and I mean, I get it. It's wildlife, you know, it's not their fault, but they were brought here, so we have to do things to try to help those.
What's the process? Are you like, are you supposed to kill them on site,
there's
or like
traps.
are you supposed to get people?
So
Traps.
there's traps. For me, the reason I don't use traps, I'm not against them at all, because again, to me, taking care of an invasive bird is no different than taking care of an invasive plant. It's both. But you have to watch those traps, like, because they can catch native birds, and so and I just, with kids activities and stuff, I don't trust that I'm going to be able to get to it soon enough to release. So for me, I just keep an eye on the box, and if I see a sparrow nest being built, I'll just remove it. So I catch it early enough. Now, it's not crazy effective because a lot of times they come back, but I'm working on some guards and the sparrow scarers you can get to put on top and things like that. So.
And see, the only bird I hate is the mockingbird. I mean, that's the only one and that's a native bird that is a state bird of Texas. And I hate the mockingbird so much because he loves my figs so much. That's my problem. My figs and my tomatoes.
Have you tried feeding them?
I've had better luck in recent years, but I love birds. I've got 5 feeders in my front yard. I even got the camera on them, and I feed them in the front, and they usually stay out the back. But when it gets hot, that's when those mockingbirds are looking for something to drink, and they're pecking holes in tomatoes. They're just looking for moisture. And hey, you're gonna pay the nature tax. Just like with your paycheck, you're gardening, you're gonna lose something to the nature IRS. So I gotta come up with a better name for that, but you're gonna lose some money to the nature tax for sure. So I don't mind. I just tell people plant more fig trees, plant more tomatoes.
Always, I try to say that every day. I think.
Yeah, that's good.
I try to practice what I preach every day.
I try. I try. Well, guys, I've had y'all on for over an hour. I appreciate y'all coming on. Real quick, we'll start with Mr. Phil ENT, ear, nose, and ear, nose. I said ear, nose, earth, nails, and tails. Let everybody know what you got coming up. If you got any events or anything you got going on, and let them know they can find you.
Yeah. Well, I've got my own YouTube channel as well. I try to make some awesome content on there, some long form content. Been pumping out reels like crazy. Try to make one every single day of the week. I just love making content. It's so much fun, and just sharing like what I love to do with other people, and showing that you can have a crazy busy life, full-time job, family, kids, all that, and you could still do it if you really want to.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I tagged everybody's YouTube in the live, so you should get some kind of notification. Your YouTube channel is great, and obviously your Instagram, TikTok, all that stuff is awesome too. Thank you so much for coming on, Phil.
Yeah, thank you.
Two Phils are better than one,
Only always.
And earthnailsandtails.com, right?
Yep, that's right.
Earth Nails and Tails. Earth Nails and Tails. I keep wanting to say snails. Earth Nails and Tails. I know.
Do an Eric video.
No. Keep it how it is. Keep it how it is. Miss Jessica, let everybody know what you got coming on, where they can find you.
You can find me from Dream to Seed on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and Facebook, and Pinterest. And nothing major planned, but I'm just really focusing a lot of content on beginner gardeners this year. So I'm doing, which is kind of the basis of my channel. So doing a lot of series and kind of breaking down gardening specific plants that people want to grow kind of from start to finish.
And teaching Chinese kids English.
Yes.
Awesome, Jessica. Thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate you every time.
Absolutely.
Mr. Phil's Figs. What you got coming up, dude? I know you got something. I know you got something coming up.
I do, but it's local, so I'm speaking about figs at the Tidewater Camellia Club here in Wilmington in May. But I will be at all things Phil Figs. I'm not on TikTok, but I'm on all the other social medias.
Did you just freeze on us?
Uh-oh.
Oh, Phil.
I think I froze.
You froze right after I don't got TikTok. And then what'd you say?
Oh, but yeah, I'm on all the other social medias, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and just trying to get my spring garden going and trying to get all my figs up for sale. That I'm starting to put them on the website now. If you guys want to take a look, when things get ready to be shipped, as far as 1 gallon fig trees. But stay tuned, as more will pop on there come May.
Yeah. No, Phil's Figs grows more than just figs, so make sure to follow him. Absolutely, that's my co-host every week, and I am Destin Nutt, Texas Garden Guy. You can find me as Texas Garden Guy everywhere, and we will be back with a new set of guests every single Thursday night. We're probably going to start rotating back and forth between Facebook and YouTube. I don't think my bandwidth can handle YouTube and Facebook at the same time. But thank y'all so much. If y'all have any questions, drop in the comment section below. Thank y'all for hopping on. Don't hang up. I'm going to end the stream.